call the meeting to order. If you would, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, guide the leaders of Orange County. Grant them insight, courage, compassion, and imagination. Protect them from corruption and arrogance, and guide them as they seek to serve your people. Amen.
No, you mean we can't take bribes? BS.
Can't even be arrogant.
Well, I figured this.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Corruption and arrogance both.
This
That's
is what
just
we're
too
gonna
much.
get from the state.
Yeah.
Arrogance, I may as well resign right now.
Oh, Lord. Okay, no changes to the original agenda. Are there any proposed changes?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
In that case, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as is.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to special presentations and appearances. Update from Culpeper Soil and Water. Greg.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Board members, appreciate the opportunity to be here. Good to see you all again. It's interesting that today would be the day. Yesterday, the new draft 2014 State Water Quality Assessment was released. It's out there on the DEQ website for review and comment. And today, we just signed a new agreement for the Upper York here in Orange County. Another slightly over $500,000 coming into the county in the next 2 years for more ag BMPs, residential septic BMPs, and technical assistance to help us pay our staff to get the work done. Because I knew that was coming, I thought it'd be an opportune time to come give you an update on this project. You've seen all my slides, I presume, already. Just remembering real briefly that we've got these 4 of 6 watersheds in this TMDL that sit in Orange County, and they were selected for the implementation project. They're all bacterial impairments. They don't meet the bacteria standard. We have 30 months into a implementation project where we've been funding practices, and it brought us additional staff dollars. You'll note on the green Mountain Run, which drains Gordonsville and the southern part of Orange there. There's a star, that's the listing station, originally used the data there to list the stream as impaired. I tend to pay most attention to listing stations as I look at data into the future, because at the end of the day, I need to explain a lot of this stuff to the general public. And it starts to really get confusing if you use other monitoring stations other than the listing when you're doing historical comparisons. So we've got that star in Mountain Run. I'm going to touch on the upper star in the Monkey Creek watershed, and I will also touch on the starred station there in Terry's Run real briefly. Got a forward arrow here. I queried the state database for these specific watersheds on implementation efforts since the TMDL report was compiled. And I felt anything since then was fair game to count as an accomplishment. The state concurred. There's what you're looking at. Most of that has been done in the last 30 months. Primarily, a big driver has been the state 100% reimbursement for stream fencing projects, rotational grazing, and water development associated with that. The turnout district-wide, but certainly in the southeastern part of Orange has been tremendous. We can talk more about that data when we get to questions. Looking quickly at the Mountain Run data, and let me back up and say that I guess probably about 40 or 50 days ago, we were selected. DEQ was having a program, a 319 program assessment by EPA. Culpeper District was chosen as one of 2 districts to give presentations to the EPA staffers and also to do some field visits on some projects so they could see what was going on. I think it was an eye-opener more for the DEQ staff than it was for the EPA staff. They work throughout Region 3 of EPA, so they see a lot of things. They were quite impressed with a lot of the work that we do. I think it created some opportunities for further, deeper in the weeds, if I can put it that way, conversations with DEQ. One of my observations, accurate or not, it was my perception was that the monitoring folks at DEQ weren't communicating that well with the 319 program folks. And perhaps maybe I could bridge that a little bit and make it work for me. So I asked for this data. I first look at this Mountain Run data, I thought looks pretty good to me. Late 11 moving on into late 2013, all but one of those monitoring points are below the water quality standard. Unfortunately, the assessment period that they work off tends to lag 5 years, or it's a 5-year window that lags 2 years. So they were looking at a different window. I said, so how do I said, this looks like a success story here. How do I move this forward? So they've agreed to do more monitoring this coming year, and the next time they do an assessment, that shift will go forward and include different years. So I think we're sitting on a Mountain Run opportunity for delisting from known as an impaired water to meeting the state standard.
What is the criteria?
It's for a single monitoring event, it's 235 what they call colony forming units or bacterium per 100 mils. They oftentimes work off of geometric means, which is 126. It's fairly stringent. They lowered it about 6 or 7 years ago when they went with just E. coli, or for fecal bacteria. They shifted to an E. coli standard and lowered it even more. It's a tough standard to meet. I would say that, except for a couple outliers in some of the data that you'll see here, most of these, even if they're slightly over the line, still relatively okay water from my perspective.
And what's that one up at 2,000?
What is it? I don't know. Could have, without knowing what had happened, stream event, weather, whatever, it's difficult to say. Maybe there may be field notes from the person that did the monitoring. You'll see that in a lot of stations. That could have been well over 2,000. 2,000 is usually the limit of assessment. Could be 5,000. Could have been a flock of geese.
Yeah, it's highly variable. I can tell you from
It can be.
experience at my place.
I think you'll see that throughout these three graphs is that most of the data tends to cluster pretty low on the graph. So again,
When they look at this, are they looking at it in terms of a median or as opposed to every point has to be below the criterion?
it needs to be, to get delisted, it needs to be
Yeah.
under 10%.
Under 10%?
Under 10%, so it needs to be less, needs to be one sample out of 11 or less.
Okay,
One sample out of 10 doesn't get you there.
all right,
It's gotta be
okay.
under 10%. Yeah, and you'll see that the solid red line is a very favorable trend there. And if you look at the modeled implementation levels, they're talking about 95% of this and 95% of that. And I think, and I'll reference some other watersheds just in a few minutes, that I think the end game is delisting. It's not necessarily 95% implementation. The Pamunkey Creek Station, we've got a problem here. Although there's a very favorable trend, they quit monitoring it. So there's work that I'm going to undertake there to try to have further discussions with them to say, how do we get this Pamunkey Creek Station back online so you're collecting data from it? And I mean, how do you compare the assessment without the data is essentially the message. There's not enough data points there. I believe that we've, through this assessment that we did with EPA and opportunity to have a lot of conversations, that door, that communication door is open to us right now. Terry's Run is a little different. It actually shows an increasing trend, although you'll see that the data is quite clustered there at the bottom. We've had quite a bit of implementation in the Terry's Run watershed in the last 18 months, which is how long the 100% initiative's been going. So it'll be interesting to see. It is on the list to be assessed or to be monitored in 2015. It'll be interesting to see what some of that data looks like. again, you'll see that there's one really high point. Other than that, most of the data points fall below the standard. Moving away from this a little bit, looking a little bit more at a global situation here in the district, the red is another TMDL implementation project that's 6 years old. We have one stream there, a fairly significant section of the Hazel River that we've done the same assessment on. It's going to be put on EPA's plate for delisting. EPA has final authority on that, but that's after 6 years of implementation. We've just been here in Orange County doing about 30 months now. The green is the Robinson River. That had a 2-year residential only implementation grant the district authored with the county over there. We have a proposal under review by DEQ right now to do the same thing we're doing in the York watershed. We'll see how we succeed in that. The competition for the dollars is very high now. And then, if you can envision, can't really point on this, can I? Below that green, the lower half of Madison County sits in the Rapidan watershed. The northern half of Greene County sits in the Rapidan watershed, and the western portion of Orange, all the way down to the town of Orange, drains Marsh Run. That area drains to the Rapidan. Late January, there'll be 2 public meetings commencing the development of an implementation plan for the Rapidan. One of those will be right here in the town of Orange at the Public Works Building, late January. Not quite sure the date has been specifically selected yet. I know they were waiting on some signatures from the director on that. That's another opportunity for the district to get involved and bring another implementation project forward that would influence Orange County. There's 2 streams, Marsh Run, and the other one's Blue Run over there in the Somerset area. They're both impaired again for the bacteria. So we look at these as all favorable opportunities to provide services to the state that they want done, bring more financial resources into our counties, and engage a lot more producers in some of the implementation work. And the final slide there is a little bit off topic, but it is the big driver for us right now in terms of ag work. Without getting too wrapped up in the actual numbers on that far right column, just use this with some state people to illustrate the growing trend of workload in the Culpeper District. We've been fairly aggressive at doing outreach and advertising the fact that the state for 24 months is offering 100% reimbursement for stream fencing grazing projects. As I said, the response has been tremendous. We have this is an October 1st graph. We're way beyond this now. We're just in January. We'll be entering the final 6 months. We're going to be going after it. We're getting 2-3 calls every day right now from new people that are interested in tell me more about this, people who aren't really quite familiar with what's going on and what we're up to. And we're not quite sure what we're going to do with all the workload. I do know that the governor's budget's coming out tomorrow, and in it, hopefully there will be an adjustment to how technical assistance is calculated for ag projects, and that remains to be seen. Of course, the General Assembly will weigh in on all that. So with that, I will just entertain any questions anybody might have on this.
All of this is state money. None of it's federal.
Well, the final slide there, the green includes some federal funds. The 170,000 that's purple is also some federal money, and the rest of it, that's correct, is state money. The state's been very good. You know, one of the concerns with the 100%, and you'll hear it, is where are they ever going to find the money to keep up with all that? Culpeper District, you know, when there's additional pots of money, we don't rank and decide who gets funded. The state does that in Richmond. They take it right off the tracking program. Culpeper District's been very competitive in that, and we've gotten 2 or 3 additional, quote, boats of money to fund some of that backlog of work, and we've funded all of the sign-up from 2014 already, so we've got no backlog from the previous fiscal year, and we have grows daily what we've got in 2015, but we've allocated 1.5 million of all of our regular allocation And as Mr. White referenced to me in a conversation, he noticed that we were leveraging some federal dollars through the NRCS programs as well. So, yeah, it remains to be seen what the state can bring forward this next year.
Okay.
No other questions? All right, appreciate the opportunity, good to see you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Greg. All right, next we move to public comment. Anyone signed up?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Move to the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, carries 5-0. Department Director Constitutional Officer reports. First would be the report on coming through the rye, Tommy Miller.
Evening, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. I know you all have a 6 o'clock dinner scheduled at Dogwood, so I'll help make this quick. Communication with production at coming through the rye gave us a couple numbers, suggested we may give a quick little report on this. If those who weren't familiar, there was a small independent film shot around the town of Orange, the county, and some other areas around the region. Took place late September through early December. Anybody might have experienced some street closures throughout that time frame. That's kind of related to the film. Brief description on the movie, just for background. It's a similar story paralleling Catcher in the Rye, set in the late 60s, coming of age story, unpopular 16-year-old boy at a all-male boarding school. Unpopular, ends up running away, and after reading Catcher in the Rye and wanted to meet J.D. Salinger himself, along his voyage meets a girl and goes through kind of the similar experiences again as Catcher in the Rye. So there's one recognizable actor in the movie, Chris Cooper, Academy Award winner, as well as Golden Globe for his role in adaptation, and he's also appeared in The Bourne Identity, American Beauty, Capote, Seriana, to name a few. The economic development kind of side of the film, let you know the budget for the film, just on the production side, not necessarily all the marketing going on, was, again, it's a small independent film, was $2 million. Your average film's around anywhere from, I think, 40 to 80 million, to kind of give you the scale. Speaking with the Virginia Film Office, there was sites considered in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Ultimately chose Orange County, and one of the big reasons of that, though not in Orange, is Woodbury Forest, just out in Madison County. They were very helpful in working with the production crew and agreeing for them being a site location there. Fortunately, the film office won't have the final numbers till the production company's done through all their accounting on what's necessary to report to the Virginia Film Office for the incentives that they provided. But the producer, Teddy Grennan, was helpful, and I'll just go over a couple bullet points here. Most all the equipment, ranging from vehicles, housing, camera equipment, supplemental gear, etc., was all Virginia-based that they rented from. They employed people from cameramen, electricians, drivers, hair and makeup artists, wardrobe, just your general gophers to run and get stuff, were a lot of locals and Virginians. And a side note of that, for workforce development side in the film and entertainment industry, this is a great film for those folks trying to get those key roles. They're referenced as key role opportunities to kind of move up when those opportunities come along. More than 40 Virginians were hired. Lodging was provided for more than 65 people in Orange County alone. They had an itemized expense of $50,000 spent in catering and meals, and $45,000 was spent on vehicle rentals. There is some planned follow-up with 3 additional visits from the director and perhaps some crew. And there's even some talk of looking at the area for a future production. That's all I had on my oral report. Any questions?
No, but I'll give you a little side note. One of the boys at Woodbury, Jared Tallwitz, was assigned a speaking role. There were only 3 given, and Jared's father owns the Bavarian Chef. So they apparently filmed with him for over 8 hours. So it's very likely that he'll actually make the film. And theater is what he really wants to do. So it's a very good stepping stone
Yeah,
for
great
him.
exposure, great exposure, yeah.
When are they looking at releasing it?
I have that somewhere in my notes, I don't know off the top of my head, so, I'll get that to you and follow
Okay.
up.
Thanks, Tommy. Next, Parks and Rec quarterly report. Tim?
I know you all have the dinner too, so I'm gonna be as fast as possible as well. Snapshot, when I go up there.
Oh, you want that first?
Good afternoon, or evening it is, close to now, and thank you for letting me report. A couple things for our snapshot real quick. We had another successful gymnastics session in October, and our next one is in January. Our wrestling club actually has 34 kids. We picked up 3 since we put out the snapshot. We have 12 in the K through first grade group on Wednesdays and 22 in the second through eighth grade group on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had a senior self-defense course in conjunction with Triad. We had 20 participants, and a big thanks to Sarah Altman from Triad and Pat Lawrence, who was our instructors, and we'll see a couple pictures here in a second. We had our Orange County Office Costume Contest for Halloween. It was co-sponsored by Faye's Office Supply, and we had 12 businesses or offices and 43 people in costumes, so you'll get a couple glimpses of those too. And our theme park ticket sales are up tremendously this year. We sold, so far have sold 984 this year compared to 776 last year. In addition to those 984, we're still currently selling these 9 Busch Gardens Christmastown tickets, 439 Regal Cinema discount tickets, 34 license to slide passes so far to Massanutten. So this year, as of today, 1,466 people have come to OCPR to purchase their leisure and recreational activities. So that's a pretty cool thing. We hope to break 1,500 before the end of the year. All right, now to our snapshot. How do I get out of this?
The X and the top.
Oh, I just. Oh. Where are we, Allison?
This is a test.
All right, here we go. Our OCPR highlight reel for this month, or this quarter. Our 15 Wives for Self-Defense class, there's a picture of our folks with the instructors. We had 20 participate total, and Sheriff Amos showed up to pass out the certificates to the ones who completed the whole course. That's actually my mom that took the course there. And you'll see some of the participants even broke a wooden board. That's Suzanne Sullivan in the top picture from our Office on Youth, and my mom again in the bottom picture. So quite interesting. Mark was there to see it, so it was pretty cool. Our OCPR costume contest, that was our flyer for the event. Pretty neat flyer. Our local tag team, Loco CPR, showed up to help go take pictures of all our businesses and folks. The stats. Faye's Office Supply donated 3 gift certificates, $50, $30, and $20 for the top 3 entries, and we provided trophies for to the top 3. There were 12 businesses and organizations, and like I said, 43 individual participants. The victors were decided using a combination of Facebook vote and judges scoring. And the Facebook vote portion led to a 10% increase in our page's likes over the weekend, the biggest jump since we've launched, and it will help raise awareness for later programs promoted through this tool. And there were 432 total likes during this period, so Facebook is getting out there and getting the word out. And we're going to go through real quickly some of the groups. That was our ladies from BB&T, Edward Jones, Peanut Butter and Jelly, Fact Finders in their 50s theme, Orange County Main Library, Marshall Farms. They didn't quite have a theme, so we came up with a theme for them. A cat, a cowgirl, and a mechanic walk into a bar. That was their theme. The Orange Pharmacy, Red Southern Food, our own Witches of Sedgwick, the Wilderness Library Branch M&Ms, and then our top 3 awards. the treasurers and IT for their Monster Mash theme, the county admin office for their 3 blind mice, and first place was our Dogwood Village Activities Department for their scarecrow theme. And now watch these next 3 thighs. This is pretty cool. The before and after. Watch it, it's getting ready to happen. Ta-da! So those were our winners before and after. Our next chart shows what I was talking about, our theme park tickets for this year. All of our numbers up tremendously across the board, and they continue to rise, and I guess it shows people are starting to travel again and do things and wanting to get out there. But all those folks are coming to our office to buy their tickets, so that's a very cool thing, and they're finding out about other programs while they're there. And our last slide, I attended the Virginia Recreation and Park Society State Conference last weekend, and our region was the host area, and they asked for folks to bring donations from their community for the silent auction that represented their community. And we started making some phone calls, and our folks, I mean, nobody said no. Everybody was just happy to participate. And you can see at the top, A Taste of Orange, gathered for you by OCPR, made possible by the good folks of Orange County. And we got so many positive comments on this basket. You can see Montpelier donated a $50 bottle of wine that's only made for them. It was something Madison drank, and passes to the museum. 4 County Players gave passes to 2 different shows. Raynard Florence, bottle of wine. Orange County Roasters, coffee. Liberty Mills, locally grown popcorn. Barboursville Vineyards, complimentary wine tasting. A jar of honey, locally made from Grelin. And jam from Berrywood Crafters out at Honolulu. And then we took all those supplies and we gathered a bunch of Orange County swag, as we called it too, the cups, pins, shirts, and all that kind of things. And we took it next door to Lacey's, and Annette donated the basket and wrapped it all up and put a bow on it. So the folks of Orange County really came through for this, and we were represented well throughout the state. And I think a lady from Tidewater area ended up buying the basket. So, and that's us for the month.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, next the update on the Office on Youth Commission and Youth Council. Alicia,
See if I can
I see you brought an entourage.
do this. Yes. All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here just to share some exciting things that have been going on in the Office on Youth over the past several months. And then I will turn it over to Kendall. He is our Youth Council Chairman, so he can update you on their activities. November 4th, Ashley Jacobs and myself, we took a group of parents and students to Radford University and Virginia Tech for a college tour. We were able to do this in a partnership with the Orange Extension Office and through a parenting education grant. We had a great time. The kids got to experience a lot of things that some of them probably wouldn't have been able to experience without us taking them. So we had a very good time. We did tours of both campuses. Radford gave us a presentation on how to seek financial aid, where to look, what are the costs, just everything. The kids got to see a dorm room. That was the most important, I think, spot for most of them, is where they're going to sleep. So it was just a wonderful day. And these are some of the pictures I just wanted you guys to see. This is the group at Virginia Tech. We just all came out of the bookstore. So this is the entire group that went. The kids were very well behaved. We had a lot of positive feedback, so we hope to do this again in the future. This is my group at Radford. We were moving from building to building. They didn't know I was taking their picture, so it's just a great day overall. We were able to share our stories about how and why we chose our colleges with the kids, and the parents actually said they appreciated it because all 5 of the adults that went had 5 completely different stories. So it was a lot of fun. The next thing, on November 20th, myself and Suzanne went down to Locust Grove Walmart. They donated the entire back of the van, which you can't see it, is just piled with boxes. And what it is school supplies and clothes. The table, everything on the table are the school supplies, and that's not everything. Everything on the left-hand side were the clothes that they donated. And that's just some of the school supplies as well. I have no more storage space in my school supply closet. So I'm very appreciative that we have all of this, and so the school, can request it. But we are already off to a good start for next year if we don't go through this during the school year. So that's the pictures I have for that. But in late October, we received a grant from Perigo Nutritionals. It was a $2,000 grant for our Breakfast Buddies program, which will help purchase signs for our 4 programs as well as other supplies that we need. On December 4th, it was supposed to be the 5th, but Ashley and I were checking the website after 5 o'clock on the 4th. We found out we received our Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth Strengthening Families Program grant. So we have our grant for the next 3 years for a total of $179,984. So Ashley stuck with us for another 3 years. And then yesterday I received in my hand, I had a $6,000 check that was from the Bama Works Fund of Dave Matthews Band in the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation. Sorry, I had to say it just like that. They told us to. That we're going to be using for another Strengthening Families program for younger kids ages 10 to 14 in the spring. So we are very excited about everything that has been going on, a lot of positive things. And now I will turn it over to Kendall and he can tell you about their activities.
Okay, that's fine. I'm Kendall Bayless, and I'm the current chairman of the Youth Council. Just to give you all touch on a few subjects so of what we've done this far in this year, and then future activities that we plan to do this year. Elections were held, the first meeting of the year in September, and the annual review of the Youth Council bylaws. Changes were presented to the Board of Supervisors for approval. New member applications were accepted the first few weeks of school, with interviews following shortly, and then member selection. Activities that the Youth Council has participated in so far this year. Members assisted with the Playing in the Park event on July 5th, providing games and activities for the kids. Members assisted with the school supply distribution the week of August 25th through the 29th. The Orange Street Festival, raising money for parent training programs and the Youth Council activities. We passed out candy and balloons at the downtown trick-or-treating event on October 31st. We've adopted a family for Thanksgiving and Christmas. The Thanksgiving food was delivered the Tuesday before Thanksgiving holiday. Some members had the privilege of attending the 2014 legislative dinner at the Dogwood Village 2 weeks ago. As for upcoming activities, the Youth Council is going to be wrapping presents for the Christmas family that we adopted on Thursday, so we can deliver it early next week. We plan to visit the Capitol in Richmond and visit with our legislators in January, and we also hope to sit in on some of the legislative sessions. We plan to hold a supply drive for items to deliver to the hospitality house for families staying near the children while they are in the hospital, as well as games and other items in need by the Children's Hospital for the kids. We will be helping with the 2015 Father-Daughter Dance in February, helping with the Michael's Gift Jailbreak fundraiser again on March 6th. We will be helping with and attending the Garvis Huff Awards on March 17th. We'll be holding a pancake breakfast fundraiser to split with a local charity the Saturday before Easter, where we hope to have the Easter Bunny attend, which is looking like it's going to be Mikey Carr there in the back. And we will assist the Office on Youth with a fundraiser for the After Prom celebration, in which we anticipate will be held in April. And that's all that we got. If you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them. If not, I'm sure that I'll
That's
an awful lot.
That is a lot.
Like
Yeah,
you're busy.
it is.
And most of these kids are involved in sports. Some of our students aren't here tonight because they have a swim meet and basketball game. So the kids that I work with, they're constantly doing lots of things. So, and then the other thing he forgot to mention is the jailbreak. We need some jailbirds again this year. So if you're interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you all. Alright, next would be the county attorney's report.
Mr. Chairman, you have in your packet some proposed changes to our taxation ordinance. They're made primarily, in fact, exclusively to bring it in line with state code. State code allows properties held in trust. Right now you get an exemption if you're elderly. The state code requires that we include properties that are being held in trust as being potentially eligible. I also deleted some, or added some language on verification of your disability or your age, and I also deleted some language. Our current ordinance has a penalty provision, but there's no state authority for us implementing that penalty. So I took that out. And so it's just housekeeping to bring our current taxation of abatement program into compliance with state code. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Motion to approve?
Well, we actually got to have a public hearing and everything.
Oh,
This
is
is
it?
just to make sure y'all
Okay.
were good and didn't have any questions or anything. The other thing that's not on the agenda, but I want to bring it up real quickly, is we have a meeting scheduled, an organizational meeting scheduled for January 6th. I asked the county administrator, and we weren't quite sure the answer why we did it that way, because our bylaws actually say the organizational meeting will be at the first regular meeting of the board, which would be the meeting on the 13th. And so I just want to bring it to your attention what the bylaws technically say, which is that it should be at the first regular meeting, and we do have a special meeting scheduled for that, so just throwing that out there.
And I mentioned briefly to you all that I guess the practice had come to make it a separate meeting and a standalone meeting, but you can all organize that on the 13th, and then following that, move into your regular meeting. That way, we wouldn't have a standalone separate meeting day. You could do it all in one time.
Is there any other business planned for that organizational meeting?
No, it's just,
No. I like leading a meeting.
So if I, it'd be a motion to cancel that meeting.
Cancel.
So moved. Seconded.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we'll go ahead and have that as part of the 13th. Thank you, gentlemen.
And also, just for reference, according to state code, the chairman would continue to serve until his office is filled by action of the board. So pursuant to state code, the chairman would continue in that position until that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I think we'd always done it with the idea that the administrator ran the meeting until someone was elected, so.
Yeah, actually, yeah, the county attorney would usually do it, or the administrator, yeah.
But what I'm saying is until that meeting on the 13th, if there was some action the chairman needed to take or a signature, et cetera, the chairman would actually still be the chairman until that meeting
Okay,
starts.
okay, I got you.
Okay. And then at that point, when the meeting began,
Then it would be
Okay.
Mr. David.
That would be the only time I ever preside again.
although we could all be sick one day.
That's right.
And we wouldn't have a meeting.
Do we need anything else on for the public hearing? No
No, I'll
motion or
coordinate
anything?
with Allison to get it
Okay.
scheduled.
Okay. All right, county administrator's report.
I have nothing tonight.
I was gonna say it looks empty. Okay, new business, assessing opportunities for agriculture and agritourism at Montpelier. Tommy?
All right, last time to see me tonight, again, evening, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. I'm here requesting the board's permission to apply for the Governor's Agriculture and Forestry Industries Development Fund, referred to as the APHID grant. If awarded, what we're looking for here is the funds to be used for a study to assess agriculture and agritourism opportunities within the Montpelier estate. The APHID grant is a value of $20,000, which requires a $20,000 match. There would be $10,000 of in-kind services provided by Orange County and other resource partners, $7,500 from the Montpelier Foundation, and $2,500 from Orange County. The study would be conducted by the Virginia Tech Office of Economic Development, again, evaluating options and generating new revenue streams for Montpelier Foundation, which in addition would hopefully provide new revenue streams for Orange County. A little background of why we're looking at this is Montpelier Foundation obviously is very heavily reliant on charitable donations, and philanthropic donations are becoming more and more aggressive and competitive to obtain, both across the state and across the globe for that matter. And so they're looking for new ways to generate other revenue streams in the event of dips and charitable givings. At this point, we're just asking for a recommendation from the Board of Supervisors to support our pursuit of the APHID grant and answer any questions yet.
Yeah, I've got a question. You talked about new revenue streams for for Montpelier improves revenue streams for the county. Isn't Montpelier tax exempt in terms of at least real estate and other taxes? What tax revenue do we get from Montpelier activities?
Well, that's a full ROI where we'd be looking at in part of that study assessment. But I think the big key role would be future increase in their visitor traffic and any type of development that goes forward, maybe increase in benefit to the local B&Bs and restaurants within the county as well.
And then also transactional on the property for lodging tax, sales tax, and those.
Right, right.
Okay, and if they start using land for agricultural production, does that land go under land use or does it stay exempt?
That's a good question. I'll have to get to you on that.
Well,
Let's-
that's a very good question, Mr. Frame. If it's exempt now as a nonprofit, does it convert over and be eligible for land use? I think that's absolutely one question we need to answer. This study's just trying to get, I
Okay.
guess, arms around all of this. There'll be a steering committee made up that will oversee the methodology and the structure of this. And we had anticipated one member of the Board of Supervisors serving on that steering committee with other folks. So what we would do is if we're successful, we've been working with the state folks, and we have every confidence we will, is that we will be back to you with action for you all to approve the grant, to look at the scope of work. We'll have folks from Virginia Tech here, as well as appointing the oversight steering committee. So that'll be kind of a downstream decision.
I noticed under, I think the only place I found it under project goals, there's a mention of one of the deliverables being possible outcomes. I was looking for either a deliverable or a task that dealt with quantifying the economic impact. And I guess the only way I can think about it is if 100 acres becomes a vineyard, what does that mean in terms of revenue to Montpelier or whomever? And I didn't find anything that seemed to directly, at least, estimate the economic impact. And it seems to me that would be an important piece of information for not only Montpelier but for us.
Sure.
And maybe it's in there. I didn't see it as directly as I was hoping to.
I think that's, the study will be done by the Virginia Tech Office of Economic Development, and I think we would definitely make sure it does kind of mention in the analysis, but generalize it where that multiplier effect would be to help and where the economic benefit would come from in all scopes of the work.
Right, and I think part of this in working with the leadership at Montpelier was trying to just get their arms around, there's a certain amount of acreage that is available for this type of use. There's a lot of the property out of the 2,800 acres that are restricted either through conservation easement, it's core property to the historic properties, or it's conservation easement or environmentally sensitive, but there are some acreage that could be converted to some type of use to Montpelier's benefit. I think one thing in talking with Kat Imhoff is this thing may answer some questions and raise more questions that require further analysis, which I think you point out, okay, if a vineyard is a potential revenue source, then the next step would be for them to investigate really in more detail what that is. This is just trying to get it off the ground.
And Montpelier is a huge asset to the county, and I think at this point, what's good for the long-term health and sustaining of Montpelier is overall good for Orange County.
And I take it you have within your budget, both in terms of your time and monies to support this grant?
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling us?
Yes.
Well, yes, he'll have the time. We'll work on the funding.
Somehow I knew that was going to be the answer. But I tried.
The Director of Finance and I have already talked about potential sources.
But I think also it's important to note that Montpelier will be putting forth most of that match that's required.
Cash. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if you all are supportive, then an action would be to authorize staff to submit the grant as presented. Grant application.
I so move. I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you, Tommy.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, now the personnel policy, we're going to,
Yes, sir. I made a decision today based on some conversations that it would be, I think, in everybody's interest to defer this to the work session on January 13th. I've talked with Chief Deputy Mike Lacasse and Chief Harkness and Nikki that there's a lot of information, and this has been a subject that's been wrestled around for Mike for 10 years or so.
yes, sir.
And so I'm just, we need to do a little bit more work before we can present it to you. I appreciated them coming because I asked them to come because I thought we would engage it tonight, but I would rather defer this to a work session. At least it's on y'all's radar that this is coming back. So
Okay.
no action needed. Thank you all. I appreciate you coming in.
All right,
Get there. We're gonna work together on getting this together, so thank you.
next then would be the sales and use tax distribution.
Yes, sir. Members of the board, you have in your package tonight is information concerning sales and use tax distribution. Every month during the fiscal year, the county's treasurer's office receives a local option sales and use tax. There's 1% on every good sold in the county is subject to a 1% tax. That is remitted by the state treasurer, or remitted by the businesses at the point of sale. It's remitted to the state treasurer, and then 1% of that sales tax is just sent to us. Then a portion of that is sent to the towns of Gordonsville and Orange as their pro rata share. The calculation of that distribution is a bit arcane, but it simply works off of the total school age population in the county. That's distinguished from the total school population. What it also includes is school people that attend the county's public schools, children, but also homeschool, religious exemption school age, and private schools. It's the total universe of that population in the county. The towns are eligible for, and I'll quickly run this through a percentage based on their proportionate share of the total of 1/2 of the one sales tax. But anyhow, it's a proportionate share. I've got a table in my memo that outlines what the current proportionate share is, and it's generally about 80, a little over 80% for the county, about 5% for Gordonsville, and about 12.5% or so for Orange. What has occurred is that the finance department, the treasurer's office, in looking at some distributions for this year, determined that the ratios didn't reflect, the formula did not reflect the current ratios, and they began updating it. What that is in turn then created a situation where what was calculated for this year was not correct. We brought this to the county's auditor's attention, and that was done very quickly because it became a material matter that needed to be recognized in the count's audit for last year. Further, the finance department, the treasurer's office agreed that there needed to be an internal control to make sure we monitor this formula and the updating of it. I won't go into the detail, but essentially what has worked out is that because the formula had not been updated, there was an excess distribution made to the two towns for the period of September 12th to October 2014. And the amount for Gordonsville was $179,599.93. The amount in my memo was off by a few $100s, and the amount for the town of Orange for that period was $442,323.80. The part of this stemmed from a count that was made of school-age population in 2008, and the distributions were inflated, and that created some of the large numbers that we're seeing. This information has been communicated, as I said, to our auditors, but also to the leadership of the towns of Gordonsville and Orange. And our finance department, the treasurer's office, have been forthcoming and will continue to be to provide supplementary information. What we have before you tonight is a series of findings and directives. The county attorney has prepared a revised resolution that's before your seats tonight. We are still working. The numbers in that resolution hadn't been picked up from the copy that you had in your package to tonight before your seat. Those are the correct numbers. Plus, there was, I guess, some better language that could be used to reflect another set portion of funds that could be available, but the board could choose not to pursue from 2008 to 2012. That's reflected in this resolution. The last thing, and I'll let the county attorney speak to the resolution, is that by adopting this resolution, you're also making these findings on the amount and the time period of the excess distribution. You're also directing myself and the county attorney to do those things necessary to develop in consultation with the towns of Gordonsville and Orange a recovery plan, essentially how to recover these excess local sales tax and use taxes, and that recovery plan be presented for approval by the board and effective on July 1st, 2015. The last thing is confirming that that the finance department and the treasurer's office will implement and manage internal control to oversee the calculation and implementation of this formula as it relates to the distribution of local sales and use tax to the town of Gordonsville. And I've talked with the treasurer, and she certainly agrees and is more willing in collaborating on this. The last part is, and I skipped over this and I apologize, is that effective November 2014, the distributions going forward are correct. They are reflecting the right school-age population numbers. That's all I had on my part. Tom, did you want to say anything on the resolution?
No, basically what the resolution does, it's two be resolved paragraphs. The first one instructs the county administrator in coordination with myself and anybody else who needs to come up with the repayment schedule for the two towns. The second part of the resolution says once that repayment schedule is made, it has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, and once it's approved, that will clean the slate, so to speak. It will eliminate any potential other dollar amounts older than that would be hard to calculate anyway, and it'll clear the deck, but we will have to come back to you for an approval of the repayment schedule.
It is our understanding that our auditors' concerns are addressed
Yes,
with this resolution?
Yeah, the auditors, primarily we're interested in the dollar amount and whether we were planning on recouping it, and both of those concerns are addressed this evening.
On the method and how you go about recouping it, or how that all is resolved, that's y'all policy decision you all.
Yeah, the auditors didn't care about that.
The last part, and I apologize, is Dr. Tanner had provided me late this afternoon the submittals to the Virginia Department of Education concerning the total county school-age population for 2005 and 2008. The number that I had in the table for the total county school-age population in 2005 was incorrect. It was about 1,200 students low. That doesn't materially affect the distribution ratios. That's a separate item. And so, Mr. Chairman, I think we're certainly available for any questions. I know Glenda and Phyllis are here as well.
As I look at the two resolutions, it seems that we deleted the saying it was in incorrect data, and we just said the data that was provided, and then we added another whereas that the fact that the data provided did not correlate, as opposed to saying anything was incorrect.
Right, because the statement that it was incorrect is an extrapolation, but it has not been empirically verified. And so we took out that language of a bold statement, it was incorrect, and put a more accurate statement that there was a correlation problem, because because that's actually what we know for certain right now.
And I think the third to last whereas on page 1 addresses that issue as well, which is we actually don't know.
We would have to spend quite a bit of money to figure it out.
Okay. Move to approve the resolution.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Old business, there appears to be none. Board comment? Nope. Okay. Anything on the informational items? Appointments to boards, commissions, and committees.
I'd like to reappoint Tony Wilson, EDA District 4.
Okay.
He has agreed to it. And just one more comment along with that, the school system is assisting us with the library board.
Okay.
There's an echo in here.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Sarah Altma has been hired as the new triad coordinator with our sheriff's office, and she has volunteered and is willing to fill the county's position on the Rappahannock Community Services Board. I spoke to Brian Duncan, their executive director, and he feels like, although he doesn't know her personally, that position is a good fit for their board. So if the board would like, she can be appointed to serve as well.
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the last thing then would be calendar.
Do we need to formally drop the 6th?
I think your action earlier.
Constitutes that, okay.
Yes, sir.
So, everybody's all right with canceling the public hearing then? Okay, hearing no
What public hearing?
The organizational meeting.
Organization. No, this
it's
cancels
cancel
public
public hearing on January 13th regarding
Oh.
amendment to the operating budget.
Yes, sir. That, we had maybe gotten ourselves a little bit ahead of where the audit was in timing. We had that as a calendar for you all to approve it because of the amendment to this year's budget to move the unbudgeted revenue in. Because of the timing of the audit, we asked you to cancel that and we'll bring it back. In fact, I think discussion had been due to just make it part of the regular operating budget.
Where is that in, I don't
Yeah, I
see
didn't
that
see that either.
cancellation. I'm a little confused.
Am I getting that right, Glenda?
Yes. On the agenda, it's on the top of page 2, the cancellation.
Yeah, it says on the calendar that there was a public hearing. I'm not sure what, when did we schedule that?
Just at last meeting.
Last what?
Our last meeting.
Regular meeting.
Okay. All right.
This was because of the taxes and the
Okay.
increase in the first half and things. We were moving along because the audit was going to be presented because of the delay in that, and also, I guess, rethinking how this year's capital budget will be working in the operating budget. We just deal with it all at the same time.
It's right there. Glenn's bad, I guess.
Well, that's because it's right above dinner.
Yeah.
It's right above the word recess.
Yeah. Okay, well, there being nothing else, I guess then we go into recess, or
Do we have
just
any
go
more?
eat and,
Well, if you want to continue to discuss county business, then the meeting has to continue. If you don't want to discuss any more county business, then you can adjourn the meeting. But probably what you want to do is just the meeting is being continued over at Dogwood and then adjourn from there.
Adjourn from there? Okay.
okay?
Then we urge you to recess this.
Yes, okay, we are in recess.